Sleeping Murder by Agatha Christie. Chapter 15. An Address. The Royal Clarence was the oldest hotel in the town. It had a mellow, bow-fronted facade and an old-world atmosphere. It still catered to the type of family who came for a month to the seaside. Miss Narracott, who presided behind the reception desk, was a full-bosomed lady of 47 with an old-fashioned style of hairdressing. She unbent to Giles, whom her accurate eye summed up as one of our nice people. And Giles, who had a ready tongue and a persuasive way with him when he liked, spun a very good tale. He had a bet on with his wife about her godmother, and whether she had stayed at the Royal Clarence 18 years ago. His wife had said that they could never settle the dispute because of course all the old registers would be thrown away by this time, but he had said nonsense. An establishment like the Royal Clarence would keep its registers. They must go back for 100 years. Well, not quite that, Mr. Reed, but we do keep all our old visitors' books, as we prefer to call them. Very interesting names in them, too. Why, the King stayed here once when he was Prince of Wales, and Princess Adelmar of Holstein-Retz used to come every winter with her lady-in-waiting. And we've had some very famous novelists, too, and Mr. Dovery, the portrait painter. Giles responded in suitable fashion with interest and respect, and in due course the sacred volume for the year in question was brought out and exhibited to him. Having first had various illustrious names pointed out to him, he turned the pages to the month of August. Yes, here surely was the entry he was seeking. Captain and Mrs. Richard Erskine, Anstill Manor, Daith, Northumberland, July 27th through August 17th. If I may copy this out? Of course, Mr. Reed. Paper and ink. Oh, you have your pen. Excuse me, I must go back to the outer office. She left him with the open book, and Giles set to work. On his return to Hillside, he found Gwenda in the garden, bending over the herbaceous border. She straightened herself and gave him a quick glance of interrogation. Any luck? Yes, I think this must be it. Gwenda said softly, reading the words. Anstill Manor, Daith, Northumberland. Yes, Edith Paget said Northumberland. I wonder if they're still living there. We'll have to go and see. Yes, it would be better to go. When? As soon as possible. Tomorrow? We'll take the car and drive up. It'll show you a little more of England. Suppose they're dead or gone away and somebody else is living there. Giles shrugged his shoulders. Then we come back and go on with our other leads. I've written to Kennedy, by the way, and asked him if he'll send me those letters Helen wrote after she went away, if he still got them, and a specimen of her handwriting. I wish, said Gwenda, that we could get in touch with the other servant. With Lily, the one who put the bow on Thomas. Funny you're suddenly remembering that, Gwenda. Yes, it was, wasn't it? I remember Tommy, too. He was black with white patches, and he had 3 lovely kittens. What, Thomas? Well, he was called Thomas, but actually he turned out to be Thomasina. You know how cats are, but about Lily, I wonder what's become of her. Edith Paget seemed to have lost sight of her entirely. She didn't come from round here, and after the breakup at St. Catherine's, she took a place in Torquay. She wrote once or twice, but that was all. Edith said she'd heard she'd got married, but she didn't know who to. If we could get a hold of her, we might learn a lot more. And from Leonie, the Swiss girl. Perhaps, but she was a foreigner and wouldn't catch on to much of what went on. You know, I don't remember her at all. No, it's Lily I feel would be useful. Lily was the sharp one. I know, Giles, let's put in another advertisement. An advertisement for her. Lily Abbott, her name was. Yes, said Giles, we might try that. And we'll definitely go north tomorrow and see what we can find out about the Erskines. Chapter 16. Mother's Son. Down, Henry, said Mrs. Fane to an asthmatic spaniel whose liquid eyes burned with greed. Another scone, Miss Marple, while they're hot? Thank you. Such delicious scones. You have an excellent cook. Louisa is not bad, really. Forgetful, like all of them. And no variety in her puddings. Tell me, how is Dorothy Yard's sciatics nowadays? She used to be a martyr to it. Largely nerves, I suspect. Miss Marple hastened to oblige with details of their mutual acquaintance's ailments. It was fortunate, she thought, that among her many friends and relations scattered over England, she had managed to find a woman who knew Mrs. Fane, and who had written explaining that a Miss Marple was at present in Dilmouth, and would dear Eleanor be very kind and ask her to something. Eleanor Fane was a tall, commanding woman with steely gray eye, crisp white hair, and a baby pink and white complexion which masked the fact that there was no baby-like softness whatsoever about her. They discussed Dorothy's ailments, or imagined ailments, and went on to Miss Marple's health, the air of Dilmouth, and the general poor condition of most of the younger generation. "Not made to eat their crusts as children," said Miss Fane. "None of that allowed in my nursery." "You have more than one son?" asked Miss Marple. "3. The eldest, Gerald, is in Singapore in the Far East Bank. Robert is in the army." Mrs. Fane sniffed. "Married a Roman Catholic," she said with significance. "You know what that means. All the children brought up as Catholics. What Robert's father would have said, I don't know. My husband was very low church. I hardly ever hear from Robert nowadays. He takes exception to some of the things I have said to him purely for his own good. I believe in being sincere and saying exactly what one thinks. His marriage was, in my opinion, a great misfortune. He may pretend to be happy, poor boy, but I can't feel that it is at all satisfactory." "Your youngest son is not married, I believe?" Mrs. Fane beamed. "No, Walter lives at home. He is slightly delicate. Always was from a child, and I have always had to look after his health very carefully. He will be in presently. I can't tell you what a thoughtful and devoted son he is. I really am a very lucky woman to have such a son." "And he has never thought of marrying?" inquired Miss Marple. "Walter says, always, that he really cannot be bothered with the modern young woman. They don't appeal to him. He and I have so much in common that I'm afraid he doesn't go out as much as he should. He reads Thackeray to me in the evenings, and we usually have a game of piquet. Walter is a real home bird." "How very nice," said Miss Marple. "Has he always been in the firm? Somebody told me that you had a son who was out in Ceylon as a tea planter, but perhaps they got it wrong." A slight frown came over Mrs. Fane's face. She urged walnut cake upon her guest and explained. "That was a very young man, one of those youthful impulses. A boy always longs to see the world. Actually, there was a girl at the bottom of it. Girls can be so unsettling." "Oh, yes, indeed, my own nephew, I remember." Mrs. Fane swept on, ignoring Mrs. Marple's nephew. She held the floor and was enjoying the opportunity to reminisce to this sympathetic friend of dear Dorothy's. "A most unsuitable girl, as seems always to be the way. Oh, I don't mean an actress or anything like that. The local doctor's sister. More like his daughter, really, years younger. And the poor man with no idea how to bring her up. Men are so helpless, aren't they? She ran quite wild, and tangled herself first with a young man in the office, a mere clerk, and a very unsatisfactory character, too. They had to get rid of him. Repeated confidential information. Anyway, this girl, Helen Kennedy, was, I suppose, very pretty, but I didn't think so. I always thought her hair was touched up. But Walter, poor boy, he fell very much in love with her. As I say, quite unsuitable. No money and no prospects, and not the kind of girl one wanted as a daughter-in-law. Still, what can a mother do? Walter proposed to her and she refused him, and then he got this silly idea in his head of going to India and being a tea planter. My husband said let him go, though of course he was very disappointed. He had been looking forward to having Walter with him in the firm, and Walter had passed all the law exams and everything. Still, there it was. Really, the havoc these young women cause. Oh, I know, my nephew. Once again, Mrs. Fane swept over Miss Marple's nephew. So the dear boy went out to the Assam, or was it Bangalore? Really, I can't remember after all these years, and I felt most upset because I knew his health wouldn't stand it. And he hadn't been out there a year, doing quite well too. Walter does everything well. Then would you believe it? This impudent chit of a girl changes her mind and writes to him that she'd like to marry him after all. Dear, dear, Miss Marple shook her head. Gets together her trousseau, books her passage, and what do you think the next move is? I can't imagine. Miss Marple leaned forward in rapt attention. Has a love affair with a married man, if you please. On the boat going out. A married man with 3 children, I believe. Anyway, there is Walter on the quay to meet her, and the first thing she does is to say she can't marry him after all. Don't you call that a wicked thing to do? Oh, I do indeed. It might have completely destroyed your son's faith in human nature. It should have shown her to him in her true colors. But there, that type of woman gets away with anything. He didn't, Miss Marple hesitated, resent her actions? Some men would have been terribly angry. Walter has always had wonderful self-control. However upset and annoyed Walter may be over anything, he never shows it. Miss Marple peered at her speculatively. Hesitantly, she put out a feeler. That is because it goes really deep, perhaps. One is really astonished sometimes with children. A sudden outburst from some child that one has thought didn't care at all. A sensitive nature that can't express itself until it's driven absolutely beyond endurance. Ah, it's very curious you should say that, Miss Marple. I remember so well. Gerald and Robert, both had hot tempers and always apt to fight. Quite natural, of course, for healthy boys. Oh, quite natural. And dear Walter, always so quiet and patient. And then one day, Robert got a hold of his model aeroplane. He'd built it up himself with days of work. So patient and clever with his fingers. And Robert, who was a dear, high-spirited boy but careless, smashed it. And then when I came into the schoolroom, there was Robert down on the floor and Walter attacking him with the poker. He'd practically knocked him out. And I simply had all I could do to drag Walter off of him. He kept repeating, he did it on purpose, he did it on purpose, I'm going to kill him. I was quite frightened. Boys feel things so intensely, do they not? Yes, indeed, said Miss Marple. Her eyes were thoughtful. She reverted to the former topic. And so the engagement was finally broken off. What happened to the girl? She came home, had another love affair on the way back, and this time married the man, a widower with 1 child. A man who had just lost his wife is always a fair target. Helpless, poor fellow. She married him and they settled down here in a house on the other side of town, St. Catherine's, next door to the hospital. It didn't last, of course. She left him within a year, went off with some man or other. Dear, dear, Miss Marple shook her head. What a lucky escape your son had. That's what I always tell him. And did he give up tea planting because his health wouldn't stand it? A slight frown appeared on Mrs. Fane's brow. The life really wasn't congenial to him. She said he came home about 6 months after the girl did. It must have been rather awkward, ventured Miss Marple, if the young woman was actually living here in the same town. Walter was wonderful, said Walter's mother. He behaved exactly as though nothing had happened. I should have thought to myself, and indeed I said so at the time, that it would be advisable to make a clean break. After all, meetings could only be awkward for both parties. But Walter insisted on going out of his way to be friendly. He used to call at the house in the most informal fashion and play with the child. Rather curious, by the way, the child's come back here. She's grown up now with a husband. Came into Walter's office to make her will the other day. Reed, that's her name now, Reed. Mr. and Mrs. Reed? I know them. Such a nice, unaffected young couple. Fancy that now. And she is actually the child. The wife's first child. The first wife died out in India. Poor Major, I've forgotten his name, Holloway or something like that, was completely broken up when that minx left him. Why the worst women should always attract the best men is something hard to fathom. And the young man who was originally entangled with her? A clerk, I think you said, in your son's office. What happened to him? Did very well for himself. He runs a lot of these coach tours. Daffodil coaches. Affleck's daffodil coaches. Painted in bright yellow. It's a vulgar world nowadays. Affleck, said Miss Marple. Jackie Affleck. A nasty, pushing fellow. Always determined to get on, I imagine. Probably why he took up with Helen Kennedy in the first place. Doctor's sister and all that. Thought it would better his social position. And this Helen has never come back again to Dilmouth? No. Good riddance. Probably gone completely to the bad by now. I was sorry for Dr. Kennedy. Not his fault. His father's second wife was a fluffy little thing. Years younger than he was. Helen inherited her wild blood from her, I imagine. I've always thought... Mrs. Fane broke off. Ah, here's Walter. Her mother's ear had distinguished certain well-known sounds in the hall. The door opened and Walter Fane came in. This is Miss Marple, my son. Ring the bell, son, and we'll have some fresh tea. Don't bother, Mother, I had a cup. Of course we'll have fresh tea. And some scones, Beatrice, she added to the parlour-maid who appeared to take the teapot. Yes, madam. With a slow, likable smile, Walter Fane said, My mother spoils me, I'm afraid. Miss Marple studied him as she made a polite rejoinder. A gentle, quiet-looking person, slightly diffident and apologetic in manner. Colorless. A very nondescript personality. The devoted type of young man whom women ignore and only marry because the man they love does not return their affection. Walter, who is always there. Poor Walter, his mother's darling. Little Walter Fane, who had attacked his older brother with a poker and had tried to kill him. Miss Marple wondered.